They were called divine rulers, chosen not just by blood, but by destiny. Behind their golden crowns and glittering palaces lay rituals so secret, so bizarre, that even history tried to bury them. Tonight, we open the velvet curtains of time and step inside the forbidden halls of royalty, where beauty met horror and power demanded blood. For centuries, the royal families of Europe guarded their traditions with unbreakable silence. These weren't just ceremonies, they were codes of loyalty, sacrifice, and superstition. Some kings believed that power was a living spirit, one that needed constant feeding, often with acts so strange that modern minds can barely comprehend. Take, for instance, the ancient ritual of the royal touch. In medieval France and England, it was believed that a monarch could heal diseases simply by laying hands on the sick. Crowds would gather, desperate and trembling, as the king's fingers brushed their skin, not out of mercy, but to prove divine right. The smell of incense filled the air, and the hope of salvation hung heavier than the crown itself. But not every ritual was about healing. In some royal courts, power demanded pain. The kings of old Russia followed a grim belief that to remain untouchable, they must test loyalty through suffering. Trusted courtiers were sometimes forced to drink from the same cup as the Tsar, not knowing if it contained wine or poison. Survival meant favor, death meant betrayal. Among the strangest customs came from the ancient Egyptian pharaohs, whose bloodlines were believed to carry divine energy. To keep that divinity pure, they often married their own sisters or daughters, a sacred incest meant to preserve the god's lineage. Behind their golden masks, these rulers lived lives bound by superstition and trapped by their own traditions. Asterisk. In Europe, the obsession with purity took another form. During coronation ceremonies, monarchs were anointed with oil that had been blessed under the moonlight, believed to contain fragments of holy relics. Some royal priests even whispered that the oil carried the breath of angels. But the process was secret, guarded, performed behind locked doors, with only a few witnesses allowed to survive. One of the most disturbing royal traditions came from the courts of medieval England, the custom of sedating when a noble died. A poor man was paid to eat bread and drink wine placed on the corpse's chest, symbolically consuming the dead person's sins. It was believed this allowed the soul to enter heaven cleansed. Yet the senators themselves were shunned, doomed to carry the spiritual filth of the powerful. The royal obsession with omens and prophecies was another strange chapter. Queen Elizabeth I refused to sleep in any room where a clock had stopped. She believed it foretold death. In France, King Louis XIV demanded that astrologers predict every major event of his life. From victories to feasts, he was the Sun King. But even the sun feared the stars. And then there was the royal taster, a position that few envied but many feared. In nearly every royal court, one servant was chosen to taste the king's food before he did. A single wrong bite could mean instant death. Some tasters were promised riches, others were slaves bound by loyalty. All shared one thing in common. They lived every meal on the edge of eternity. In the Ottoman Empire, when a new sultan rose to power, he often ordered the strangling of his brothers with a silk cord to prevent civil war. It was not murder, they said. It was mercy, a dark mercy wrapped in tradition. The silence of the harem echoed with grief. But the empire continued, steady as the moon above Istanbul. Even in death, royal traditions remained hauntingly bizarre. The French kings were embalmed in a secret ritual known only to select monks. Their hearts were removed, dried with spices, and sealed inside golden urns. For centuries, these heart relics were hidden in cathedrals, worshipped like holy treasures. Some say, when the French Revolution began, the hearts were stolen by and never found again. In ancient China, emperors took their obsession with immortality to terrifying extremes. They drank potions made with mercury, believing it would make them live forever. Instead, it slowly poisoned their bodies, driving them mad before death. Yet no one dared stop them, for to question the emperor's ritual was treason, punishable by execution. Royal superstition also touched birth and blood. In some European dynasties, newborn heirs were washed not with water, but with wine, to symbolize power and purity. Their first cries echoed through marble halls as midwives whispered ancient prayers. Those who survived infancy were said to be destined to rule. Those who didn't were never spoken of again. Perhaps one of the eeriest customs belonged to the French court, the ritual of the morning mirror. When a monarch died, every mirror in the palace was covered in black cloths so that no living soul could accidentally glimpse the spirit of the dead. Servants whispered that anyone who saw the king's reflection after death would join him before the next dawn. In Japan, the ancient emperors were believed to be direct descendants of the sun goddess Amma. Their rituals were performed in utter secrecy. Even their meals were hidden from sight. For it was believed that seeing the emperor eat diminished his divinity. The emperor existed above the world, half man, half god, living in sacred isolation. As centuries pass, many of these traditions faded, but some survived in disguise. The crowns became symbols, the rituals turned into ceremonies, and the fear simply changed form. Even today, royal families hold secrets known only to their bloodlines. Perhaps that's what keeps the fascination alive. The knowledge that behind the elegance still lingers, the shadow of something ancient, something dark. Every royal dynasty, from England to Egypt, from the Ottomans to the emperors of the East, shared one truth: that power, once obtained, could never be pure. They demanded loyalty, sacrifice, and rituals that blurred the line between devotion and madness. These weren't just traditions. They were tests of faith, fear, and survival. History remembers the wars, the palaces, the portraits, but the true essence of royalty lies in what was never written. The whispered prayers, the hidden rooms, the rituals that dared not reach the light. These are the dark royal secrets that shaped our world and remind us that even in the grandest halls of power, Fear is eternal.